Hey, greetings. Welcome to my video. I'm really stoked to be here. Thank you for joining me on this one. I'm talking about ancient agriculture and Aborigine spirals in the desert. And there's a link in the description of a video where it's being detailed. And uh, I strongly recommend checking out Leak Project. They have so much information about some interesting topics. Throw a lot of ideas out there, and uh, Rex Bear has really brought some interesting stuff to my attention, and it's been valuable for me. And check out the channel. He's got tons of videos about a broad range of subjects. A lot of things about the American Rocky Mountain area and Southwest region, and a lot of interactions with Native American Indians, which is increasingly valuable as we collectively are led deeper into this pitfall of a technological silo that should be an indicator that it's probably time to rediscover some of our ancient technology and retrace our steps a little bit and move forward with things that have worked before. And this is an example of that. So this agricultural technique, it was described to me by an older gentleman who had worked on farms, lived in a couple of different countries, and he had described this to me. And I'm gonna show you the video right here, and then we'll talk about it. So this is not the whole video. Check out the whole video. They put a lot of ideas out there. Um, and I'm guilty of having an overactive imagination too, and especially with some of these symbols that have been identified and have reoccurred throughout history, and rock carvings, from everything from rock carvings to children's clothes to the uh, FBI's watch list of suspicious symbology. These symbols come up. And of course, if you've been looking at my channel, you know I really like quantum physics. And a big part of some of the mysteries of quantum physics relate to the physics of spin. And why, for example, why would a spinning sphere be able to stay in the air longer than a sphere of equal proportions and size and weight that is not spinning, like a musket ball? Why does a musket ball fall short where a musket ball in a rifle barrel will go further with more accuracy? This is these are some of these things that we try to answer. We're looking at electroculture and agriculture that I've been experimenting with. Why is it that when things turn one way, they seem to attract? When they turn other ways, the other direction, they tend to repel. So this spinning, there's a lot of understanding and realization to come to grips with regarding it. But I think that there's a more simple explanation than what we're about to see here in the example that I'm showing here. So please allow me to share the Leak Project channel with you. We'll watch it together, and then I'll add some more information.
Wait, can you go all the way back out to give the viewers a look at the whole continent of Australia before we go in? Yeah. Oh yeah, it is western. It's northwestern Australia. That is where the oldest Aboriginal sites are. So we are on point here. This is beautiful.
Nice. And that was the first thing that came to my mind. Imagine building a civilization with these spirals. Some of the oldest petroglyphs that we know of are spirals, are they not?
They are. The archaic petroglyphs, the oldest petroglyphs in North America, in Nevada, and even out here in near the Four Corners, you're always going to find a three whirl, five whirl, meaning how many times it goes around, or a seven whirl spiral. And these are some of the oldest. They're dated between 13 and the younger Dryas type spirals.
Here we go. You can start to see to the left here. You'll notice the spirals softly, and then they get to be more prominent in the desert area here. And the quality
Wow.
is phenomenal. They're so circular. Like if you look at how were they able to get such accurate circles such a long
Well,
time?
they're not as accurate as you're portraying them. I've seen some of them, and a
Okay.
lot of them are extremely accurate. If you can go to that group
This one.
of seven, the group of seven, yeah, some of them are really distant, but there's a few, I would say like 10% of them that are very poorly made.
Sure.
And I wonder if that's on purpose because this is some kind of a message. Just this is similar. If you zoom out, it's very similar to Gobekli Tepe in the fact that there are there are literally dozens and dozens of them, right? So you make one, and then you make the next one, and then you make the next one. What is the purpose of this insanity of like in the if we're talking about Gobekli Tepe, making temple after temple after temple, very bizarre.
Yes, and the spirals, people wonder do they represent galaxies? Do they represent like not necessarily Stargate, but an energy? I had a really cool interview with a gentleman that actually lives in where's he at now? Ireland. And he went to Australia at one point. He found this rock. It wasn't a rock. It was a Aborigines dreamstone. He took it. This weird experience happened in his house. He saw a spiral start to spin. He called the friend of his, which was connected to the Aborigines people. They came and they said, "This is ours. You're going to give this back to us." She wasn't going to give it back to him. He said, "We will shake the bone of you if you don't give this back to us," which is basically an Aborigines death sentence. So she gave him the stone. And yeah, he said he saw a spiral in his house. Now, we've taken it for his word. The spiral that he claims he saw after he took that home is just like what we're seeing here. And I find it very bizarre.
Now, where are the better spirals? The ones I showed you?
In the photo that I sent him,
No, I found that photo on the internet.
you have it on the internet?
And so they're far better
Oh, here, look at this one. Look at this one.
refined than that spiral. Yeah, so first of all, what comes into question is the whole concept of these being energy vortices. There are dozens of them all over the place. That makes no sense. What makes more sense is that they're creating these for some type of spiritual purpose, and we don't know what that is. The same thing was happening at Gobekli Tepe. They're making temple after temple. So maybe it's generational. Grandpa's generation made their spiral, and depending on how good your agriculture is or how good your hunter gathering is, you can make a bigger, better spiral, or you just can only make a crappy 8 guys. It all depends on the weather and the climate. But whatever they're doing here is so important that they're doing it again and again and again, as if it's a warning.
Wouldn't you say these are very, this is pretty sharp?
Yeah, that's good. That's sharp.
I mean,
And equidistant. And it's if you start at the center, one, two, three. This is four worlds. This is unlike anything that we see here in the desert Southwest. They're typically three, five, or seven.
now I'm not really cautious about that. So let's look around a little bit more and see because you're breaking it down to the 80s and such.
Okay, all right. These dudes are really beating around the bush really hard, figuratively and literally. So they did sort of mention some of the things that I'm coming on to. Yes, there's a very generational aspect to this. Yes, there is a spiritual connection, and that spiritual connection and generational aspect is staying alive in the desert and letting nature do what it does and simply influencing it to help us humans. So the message there is continue life. Okay. Now let me break this down more physically. And we saw these. We saw you just saw the video. You can go back and pause it. Um, I'll even bring a picture up here of what we just looked at, so I can talk about it and we can look at it together. But this has everything to do with agriculture and uh, growing crops and uh, let me see. Uh, so what happens when they make these spirals um, is we get a uh, a pressure and then a vacuum, and when you have a spiral, it doesn't matter which direction the wind is blowing, it will create this effect. And I'm going to illustrate it. I tried to find a better picture of this. I didn't search too hard, but let me pull this up again to illustrate kind of how the weather weathers stone and rock and desert kind of lands. So again, I'll bring this up for you, and here's the photo that I'm talking about here. So this is a what they call a hogback kind of mountain, and there's mountains called hogback mountains, and there's some geological stuff that is really important when people are talking about hogback mountains. But I'm looking at what's on top with the vegetation, and you can see the wind here is coming from over here, and this is a mostly north and south kind of ridge, and this side of the mountain here, to a great extent, gets scoured by the wind. Wind gets pushed up. If you've seen lenticular clouds and things, you know how the atmospheric pressure changes over big mountains. But then on the other side of the mountain, there's a vacuum, and a lot of times this is where big snowfalls happen. This is where, for example, in South America, there will be fog and mist, and certain species like cacti that look like they have wool instead of thorns. That helps condense the fog and to dew where they can absorb it. So this is what we're seeing here, where we have the vegetation on the downwind side of these mountains. There's more vegetation on the downwind side of these mountains, where on the side of the mountain that faces the direction the wind usually comes from is scoured, where bits of sand and dust are pushed off, and then that vacuum they drop down, and moisture also gets pushed up and clouds, and then in the vacuum, the low pressure area over here, going to be more moisture. So this is the effect that we're looking at, and this is a issue of scale. This is an entire mountain range here, but this is what the we're looking at with the spirals in Australia. And we'll look back again at this top view here, and you can see here at the crest of these hills there is vegetation, and one side is more vegetated than the other. And there's some other screenshots from those aerial maps that show this, where you can really see how one side of that ridge is vegetated and one side is not. And Here's here's kind of what's going on here. So when you have desert land, we need to reforest that. We need to make that productive land. And so what one does is they start in the middle, and one could just simply kick rocks and sand away from themselves. Or if you want to work smarter and not harder, what you do is you get a stick and you push the rocks away with a stick. And if you want to work smarter and not harder even more, you get a bunch of little sticks and you tie it to the bigger stick, make yourself a broom. And then you sweep yourself out a little place to stand. And then get outside of that little hill of rocks and sand and you sweep towards the hill. And you start going around and sweeping as far as you can away and then towards your little hill, away and towards and away and towards, and just keep going around. And like we saw, and like Diamond and Rex were talking about, they'll go around three, four, five, six, 7 times, and they'll start another spiral somewhere else. And this creates that peak effect going in all directions. So when the wind comes by, it's going to create high pressure zones and low pressure zones. Debris, sand, dust will be picked up from one side and deposited on the other side. When it finally does rain, the center of that crest, because it's just rock and sand, is going to hold water. And when it seeps down to the ground level, that area will be moist longer. When this gives a little bit of shade in these desert areas, and sometimes it's just enough for seeds to take root and to start germinating. With a little bit more water, with a little bit of protection from the elements, you can start slowly working from desert back to arable land. So this is the process that the Aborigines are doing, and 30,000, 40,000 years. These are really simple techniques. I recognize this as being so connected with the planet, and I love plants. There's a link in the description where you can buy some of my moringa trees, which I've been growing and cultivating. It's one of my solutions, pound sign solution to the just horrible situation here in America where all the processed foods is there's really no nutrition. If there is nutrition, it's not easy for the body to digest it. Life feeds on life, feeds on life. And this tree, this moringa tree, is one of the most nutritious plants on earth. So I've been cultivating it for 4 or 5 years now, and I've known about it and been using it for 10 years now. And I think it's just brilliant. And unless somebody has issues with kidney stones or gout, then I encourage people to incorporate it into the diet. It can be taken sort of as a powdered drink mix. Um, I like it fresh. I like to chop it up with some like on tacos or on a pizza. If I'm at home making some stuff, I put it up in a blender for my smoothies. You can see some of my super smoothie videos. Um, it's good stuff. But this is what the agriculture is doing. This is what they did, and this is how we can reforest some of our deserted areas. And there might be more to it. There may be energetic kind of aspects to it. However, I think this boils down to survival and agriculture. And of course, once you have a few little, weeds or shrubby little bushes growing on that hogback side of the hill, then what happens? What happens? Well, the plant makes a little bit of shade, and who likes that? Some little bug or lizard is gonna try to hide from the sun, and it'll hang out there. And then what it'll do? it'll poop. And then that is next time it rains, that's going to get washed down into the soil and provide nutrients for the plants that are living there. So now the plants are living there. They have a little bit of protection from the harsh aspects of the weather and elements, and they're getting a little bit of fertilizer now, and they have a little bit extra water than the surrounding areas. So slowly, slowly, this is a technique, and it is something that does kind of take generations. And they've probably done this a whole lot, and there has happened in other parts of the world. And I'd have to really look to see exactly which other ancient civilizations have used it. A lot of it has probably been, um, unfortunately, uh, gone over, or in some cases, Australia is very arid, most of it. So it takes a long time to do. But uh, we have had forests in places like Sahara. We know that was a forest. And we are reforesting the Sahara, and there's similar ways that we can do this artificially by simply building a wall, like a snow fence, for example. A snow fence will have the same effect where wind full of snow will hit this fence and then push the air up and drop the snow on the other side, and you get this snow drift that builds up on the far side of, or the downwind side of a snow fence. So that's another example of this same principle of manipulating weather patterns on a very small scale to benefit us humans, and really life in general. So uh, of course, it is sort of a foundational kind of thing, and I don't want this sort of stuff to be forgotten. This agriculture, this technology, these techniques of fixing our planet, it's really kind of big part of why I feel I'm here. So I want to share that with you, and uh, that's pretty much about all I really have to say about the spirals in Australia within the Aborigine territories. And uh, I've given a couple of examples. It's being applied in more modern ways with these sort of fences, and a lot of people are coming up with creative products to water trees and plant full size trees in the desert. And uh, that's all fine and well, and if it gets results, then I'm for it. And uh, this technique is effective. You can see the effectiveness of it on those spirals where you have a deserted spot and they make a spiral there, and then all of a sudden, right on the little ridges, it's not arid. There are little bits of things growing. So wanted to add that up and open the invitation. Uh, I'm available to talk more about this kind of stuff, ancient agriculture, things that we can do to uh, repair our planet and uh, continue advancing as a species while not losing some of the greatness that we've already achieved, and rediscovering how awesome we humans truly are. Uh, has nothing to do with computers. I don't know how else to say that. Uh, this is sort of a silo of technology, and it looks like it's about the end of the road. And um, let me ask you this: Have any of the computer manufacturers ever made an unhackable operating system? Have they ever made an unhackable piece of hardware? These operating systems have weak points. They're all based on binary code. And we should keep that in mind before we put full faith of our entire economy, healthcare system, finance, and governance uh, into being relegated to these devices. So please keep that in mind at all times. Much love. Praise be. Uh, you can contact me. I have a that link in the description for my link tree. There's a variety of ways to get in contact with me, and I'd be more than happy to consult and uh, do whatever I can to keep things going in the right direction and avoid some of these pitfalls and that sort of stuff. And there's other ancient stuff that we've collectively either forgotten or have been destroyed before our lifetimes. And um, rediscovering some of that stuff and rediscovering more about how brilliant and awesome we humans truly are. That is a big solution, in my opinion, to the degradation that we see in the Western world today. So, thanks for sticking with me. If you found this helpful or insightful, please share the video. And to really stimulate your imagination and curiosity, check out the Leak Project. Rex Bear's really been doing a great job for several years, and I've got a lot of respect for him for um, doing it as much as he does and finding cool guests and showing off really cool rock structures and interviewing Native Americans and hearing their stories. It's really valuable. So, anyways, with that, cheers, and I look forward to hearing from you. And let's learn and grow together.